RX Television on rxmuscle.com. This is Ask Dave, better known as hashtag Ask Dave, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sunrays. I'm your host, Sadiq Faruqi. This is your 30-minute question and answer show with Dave Palumbo. All your questions on diet, training, supplementation, IFBB pros, competitions, life, whatever is on your mind, it is all on the tables. We now bring in Dave Palumbo. Dave, couple of big things, actually three big announcements that you have. One, yesterday we released the interview with Robbie Robinson to much acclaim. People love that you guys talked about the old school bodybuilding, the training, the lifestyle, so on and so forth. That's one. Two, you have an upcoming Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course coming up. And then three, a big exclusive item available at davepalumbo.com.
Yeah, well, the Robbie Robinson was something I'd always wanted to do. I really never spoke to Robbie, before, not in depth, maybe hello at the show or something like that. And, him and I were going back on Facebook, and obviously it being almost, 73 years old, he wasn't that savvy with Skype, and so we made it work. It took us a couple of tries, but we made it work, and it was a great interview, and I'm going to definitely have him back, because I definitely have way more things to ask him about and stories about the old days and the Weeders and all that kind of stuff. But I think it was a good bird's eye view into what made Robbie such a great champion and why he's so, successful at 72 years old. And, he's shredded still, he looks great, he trains, he has no injuries. And it was, we went into depth on everything. I asked him about drugs, what they used back then, and you'd be surprised how little Robbie actually used. So I think you guys will really like that. If you haven't seen it, make sure you go over to the rxmuscle.com website and check out the Robbie Robinson interview. Also, I have a lot of people have been asking me, and we've gotten a ton of signups already. So, guys, you don't want to wait because there's only a couple more spots left. The Secrets to Becoming a Diet Guru course, my course that basically teaches you how to be a coach in this industry, everything from diet, supplements, drugs, basically how to prepare someone for competition or help them to build muscle. There's the coaching, I guess you could say, positions that are open nowadays where you can actually make six figures or more are a terrific thing that never existed before in our sport. The problem is a lot of people just don't have the education to really be effective coaches and be able to troubleshoot. I give you all that in one day, 10-hour seminar out here in Cape Coral, Florida. I know it's winter in most of the country, so this is a good opportunity to get out of the cold, come down here in the nice 80-degree weather we're having, and spend the day with me. I take everyone out to lunch. You learn so much information, you won't even be able to process it all, and that's why I give you an 85-page manual you take home with you with all my protocols in there. It's a tremendous gift that I wish, I hope I can keep giving for many years to come. You guys can sign up at davepalumbo.com, but we have limited seating, so there's about 5 seats left, so you guys don't want to wait too long, or you're not going to be able to come to this one. And I know this is a popular one. This is February 23rd. That's on a Saturday. Now, the other thing that's really exciting, and I've been teasing this for a number of weeks now, is the growth hormone testing kits are in. I know a lot of people buy the roid test kits from my davepalumbo.com website. They test their anabolics, see if they're real. We sell a ton of those. I mean, it's a great invention, but we didn't have a way to test protein hormones, specifically growth hormone. And a lot of people spend a ton of money on growth hormone, and it's way more expensive than anabolic steroids. And to not know if what you're taking is real or not is a horrifying experience. And I know a lot of people that have lost a lot of money that way. So finally, these kits came out. They're not cheap. However, there was only a limited amount of them. I bought all the inventory of them. I bought every kit that existed. So I'm the only one who has these GH testing kits available. They're at davepalumbo.com. We only have a certain amount of them. So don't cry to me. Don't wait. I'm telling you, buy these test kits. If you're spending thousands on GH, $100, or $110, whatever we're charging for it, I don't even remember, is nothing to know that what you're taking and what you're spending your money on is real. And they're super accurate. It's almost like a pregnancy test. I'll do a video and explain how to do it. It's really simple, and you'll know one way or another if you're getting ripped off or you're not getting ripped off. And look, it's happened to me in my life. You guys know my story. I went to jail because of it. So no one wants to get taken advantage of, and no one wants to be using fake stuff. So this is a great testing kit. Hopefully in the future we'll be coming out with IGF-1 testing kits and some of these peptide testing kits as well. But this is a first in many. But let's face it, GH is the most expensive thing out there. So guys, davepalumbo.com, once again, don't wait. Once they're out, I don't know when the next allotment is coming in.
You mentioned pregnancy tests, and let's not gloss over the most important news item in your personal life. For those who may not have watched or listened to Heavy Muscle Radio. The big announcement, Dave, congratulations, you and your wife Amanda, expecting child number 3.
Yeah, it was unexpected, but always welcome, and we feel blessed to have another one on the way. And we don't know what the sex is yet because it's too early to tell, but all the details will come as we find out. But thank you for all the text messages and emails that I've got from people, kind of congratulating us.
So on that note, we now start with the questions. The first 2 questions from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. The first question: I see testosterone dosage is always the highest of all drugs on the cycles you suggest in the cycle you posted in the app. Should that always be the case, and would there be any special reason for that?
Yeah, what Sid is referencing, we always do 2 questions for my Dave Palumbo Experience app. That's an app that I have available. You can get it through iTunes or the Android store. It's $29 a month to join. You have access to everything I've ever written, all my videos that I've ever done. Plus, I do an exclusive Q&A on the app. So once a week, I do a video where I do exclusive questions and answers. Also, on a daily basis, I answer anyone who's an app member who submits questions. They will be answered, and they get put on the app so that everyone else gets to see the question and answer as well, which is kind of cool. So this is one of the questions from the app. And to be honest with you, a lot of people don't understand. Testosterone is the most anabolic compound out there. People think trenbolone is more anabolic than testosterone. It's not. It's more androgenic, meaning that you'll get more side effects, so more aggression, more of all the glycogen loading type stuff, but it's not more anabolic. Testosterone is the most anabolic compound out there, bar none. So when you create a cycle for yourself, the base of every cycle should be, assuming you're not a beginner, should be testosterone based, and the testosterone component should be the highest. Let's face it, your body produces testosterone naturally, and if you're using a long-acting ester, it will have very little toxicity on your body. So all the base of every cycle should be testosterone-based, anywhere from 750 to 1,200 milligrams a week, with another anabolic. The anabolics are not meant to be taken in very, very large amounts. Even though there are people out there that are taking 1,000, 1,200 milligrams of Deca and trenbolone a week, they're crazy. They're crazy. When you read the profiles of these drugs and what benefits and what side effects that they cause, they're based on normal dosages, 200 to 500 milligrams per week. If you're taking 1,200 milligrams of Deca a week, you're going to get a lot more prolactin production. You're going to get a lot more estrogen production. You're going to get a lot more side effects than you normally would from what people talk about when you read these discussions, or you read these, when you read Bill Llewellyn's Anabolics Guide. That's talking about normal dosages. Same thing with trenbolone. I think a lot of people have trouble with trenbolone and they can't take it because they take too much of it. Back, when I was competing, we were taking 50 milligrams every other day. Guys now are taking 200 milligrams every other day. It's insane. And they can't sleep at night. They have digestive problems. They have all kinds of, rage problems. It's a dose-related phenomenon. The anabolics don't have to be too high if you're taking the right amount of testosterone. And that's basic science, and that's basic empirical evidence that I experienced myself and I experienced with all my clients. So try it. There's no magic formulas out there. There's no mystical ways of taking steroids that no one thought of before. Anything new that's coming out now, new ideas and new theories, we've already tested them all, trust me, at least with regard to anabolic steroids. Testosterone should be the base of all your cycles.
Second question, again from the Dave Palumbo Experience app. What are your thoughts on the study suggesting androgen receptor upregulation when on anabolics? Would that be a case for never going off cycle when looking for the most gains? Is there anything else you can do to upregulate receptors?
I think when you initially take a steroid cycle, I think your receptors, hyper respond to the drugs. Long term, there's no way that receptors upregulate when you're on anabolics for a long period of time. Anytime you flood your body with any kind of drug, the body doesn't want to, be over, responsive. It doesn't want to be overstimulated. It downregulates receptors. That goes with every single drug. There's never been a drug that out there that there isn't a downregulation to. Take an opiate, for instance. Take OxyContin. You could take one OxyContin and you'll be whacked out of your mind. Take it for 2 months, and in 2 months, that same dosage, you won't even know you're taking it because your body downregulates. It doesn't want to keep responding to it. That's why we go on and off cycles. That's why we stop and start drugs like Clenbuterol, because your body stops responding to them. The person that has the most receptor density for any kind of anabolic, or a masculinizing hormone would be women, because women don't produce a lot of testosterone. They produce very, very, very minute amounts. So they have to have very keen receptor affinity so the receptors can respond to that small amount and give them an effect. As we take more and more anabolic steroids and higher dosages, our receptors decrease. And that's why when you go off and then come back on again, you respond so well, because you're restoring receptor density, affinity, and all that other stuff, because your body, gets used to anything. That's why I actually like the fact, and I've said this before, you can do your PCT after your cycle, but I actually like going off, and it doesn't bother me if my testosterone goes down to 12, because people say, oh my God, it's so low, I'm gonna have to, but so what? Let it be low for 4 to 6 weeks. Who cares? That'll be gone in the blink of an eye. Think about how receptive your androgen receptors will be trying to respond to 12, a testosterone level of 12 or 20. That's almost zero, so your receptors will recover much better. That's why people who bridge, which is the stupidest thing of all time, taking some kind of a low-grade anabolic while they're off, they never really restore receptor affinity and density of the receptors, because they always have a stimulus there. So that there's no reason for the body to try to increase sensitivity. And that's a huge mistake that people make.
Let's go to our Instagram question. Again, if you're not following us, it is official_RX Muscle. Let's go to Rye Forrester. Clenbuterol affecting electrolytes in the body, ? Is that why some people feel like crap while taking it?
No, I don't think it's an electrolyte issue. Because I've had plenty of people, myself included, get blood work while on Clenbuterol. Sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium are all normal. What Clenbuterol does for the muscle is it makes it contract harder. So anyone who's taking Clenbuterol knows that you get stronger on it. If you've taken Clenbuterol alone without any anabolic steroids, you'll know that you get really strong on Clenbuterol because it makes the muscles contract harder. The problem with that is when they contract harder, they have a greater affinity for cramping and locking. And this, we hear, a lot of people, the first time I experienced a Clenbuterol cramp, I was yawning and my neck, I got a cramp right in here. And that's a very common Clenbuterol cramp for some reason, right under there. Some people get cramps in their legs at night. The best way I found to combat it would be to drink diet tonic water. The tonic water has quinine, methylquinine, and quinine prevents cramping. It inhibits the cramping process in the body. Now, as long as you know you're not electrolyte depleted from something else you're doing, diuretics, etc., taking quinine is fine. So you drink a little diet tonic water, and those Clenbuterol cramps kind of dissipate pretty quickly. That's the best thing I could recommend. I got them, and it never really bothered me to the point where I had to use tonic water. But I know a lot of people that take one Clenbuterol, 20 micrograms a day, and they're cramping. So they find that the tonic water works really good.
Let's go to Kyle Abs 10. Not sure if we've really gotten questions about sleep in the past. His question is how much sleep helps with weight training. I'll add a corollary to that if you want to address in general how much sleep you recommend for bodybuilders. How much sleep did you get during your career?
Yeah. The more sleep, the better. That's the best way I can put it. Sleep seems to be a very important component to building and repairing muscle. Back in the day when I had ideal situations and no responsibilities and no jobs, I would sleep probably about 8 to 9 hours at night, and then I would try to get another hour nap during the day. If I get 10 hours, I grew the best. Look at babies. I have young kids now. I have infants and stuff like that, and they sleep all the time. And there's a reason why they sleep all the time, because they grow when they're sleeping. They intuitively know. They drink a bottle, they go to sleep. They wake up after 2 hours, they drink a bottle, they go back to sleep again. So sleeping and eating seems to be the best way to grow. Throw a little stimulus into that, like going to the gym and breaking down muscle tissue, going back and sleeping and eating, you're gonna grow the best. That doesn't mean you should be sleeping all day long, because then you're gonna screw up your sleep cycle, but try to get about 7-8 hours at night and try to get a nap during the day. That's the best if you can do it. Look, if you can't do it, you can't do it, but I always found that the more I slept, the better I recovered. As a matter of fact, I could do a crazy leg workout, go home, have my post-workout shake, maybe a little food with that, lay down, sleep for 45 minutes. When I got up, I actually felt like I was recovered already. I could feel the muscles already starting to heal on themselves. And so that's definitely an important component when you're training really hard.
Let's go to Dr. Anas. Any tips for carpal or dealing with carpal tunnel syndrome for bodybuilders?
You know, a lot of times carpal tunnel is caused by forearm pain. So if you have adhesions or blockages in your forearms from damage micro damage that's being done in the gym from heavy lifting, a lot of times that'll affect the forearms. As a matter of fact, I think they did a study if you guys have heard of active release techniques or ART, I've talked about it before. For some reason, ART is like 90% effective against carpal tunnel syndrome because it frees up the nerve pathways running through the forearms. And a lot of times that's what's causing carpal tunnel. Only 1 out of every 10 people who complain of carpal tunnel actually have a blockage in the tunnel, which is where the nerves go through the hand and into the hand. And what's happening is they're getting pinched off, and what they have to do is they go in there and release some of the connective tissue and open up the space and make more room for the nerves. So a lot of surgeries they're finding for carpal tunnel were really not needed. And they were just done because they were misdiagnosed people or they just didn't know any better. You know, they complained of hand numbness and all this stuff and they couldn't work with their hands and they went and got the release surgery. A lot of times they could have just gone and get ART. So I always tell people who complain to me with carpal tunnel, try ART first, 5 to 10 treatments, see how that works. Also, if you're taking growth hormone, a lot of times you get carpal tunnel symptoms. Numbness in the hands, and that seems to go away as soon as you either lower the dose of the GH or take it out completely. So if that's bothering you and you're on GH, stop the GH for a couple of days, see if it goes away. That might be the problem.
Let's go to Victor Droza. Dave, if I'm hungry all the time during my off season, does that mean I'm not eating enough food?
Well, if you're fat, it probably means you are eating enough food. But most people who are hungry in the off season, usually it means they're not eating enough, because I can tell you, the people I work with and myself personally, I couldn't stand eating food in the off. It was like nothing was pleasurable because I was eating so much. It just, all the joy came out of it because I was never hungry. I was always eating every 2 hours and it was like, oh, another meal, holy mackerel. I just finished the last meal. So if you're hungry and you're trying to grow and you're not overweight, grossly, then you probably need to increase your food intake.
Let's go to Ivan or Ivan Banyanats. Anadrol pre-workout or divided throughout the course of the day?
I'm not an Anadrol fan. I really don't advise it very much. Most people can't eat on it. It does kill your appetite pretty bad. It is toxic on your body. People have found that spreading out the dosage over the day in smaller increments seems to make it a little more tolerable. But some guys I know just will use it right before bed. This way it only blunts their appetite, it seems to be, while they're sleeping, and then they seem to be able to eat a little better during the day. Everyone's got but a lot of people like to take it early in the day because then they get a better workout. So you got to experiment with it. Like I said, it's not a drug that should be taken for more than 4 weeks straight because of its high toxicity level. Everyone wants to take Anadrol because they think, oh, it's so anabolic, it's going to help me grow. But if you can't eat and you can't get the food down, I don't care how strong you are in the gym, you're not going to put on any size.
Let's go to Joe K90. Can BP 157 and TB 500 be used to treat tendinitis in the elbows?
I mean, theoretically, yeah, it should work. I mean, it affects all kinds of joint connective tissue, from tendons and ligaments and cartilage. People have asked me, does it work? And the trick is, it works, but to different degrees on different people. Depends on how bad your injury is. It's not going to heal my shoulders, that were bone on bone and had no cartilage left in it. But if I had a smaller injury, what I did notice when I took BP 157 was that, my shoulders didn't really feel much better. Maybe they felt a little more lubricated, and now I have 2 new shoulders, so it doesn't even matter anyway. But when I took it, that's how I felt. But I noticed other little annoying pains, like I had my bottom of my foot was hurting me. Those little pains went away. So I think it's good for helping to heal like smaller injuries. But if you have a real serious injury, like you need a hip replacement, taking BP 157 or TB4 is not gonna take away the need to go get a hip replacement. It's more for, just like I said, healing acute, short-term injuries.
Let's go to Antonio Mitchell. What's a good dosage of Proviron to free up test on a cycle and to get maximum aesthetic or hardening benefits?
I know I'm really down on Proviron, and I used it back in the day because we thought it was an estrogen receptor blocker back in the day. I know it theoretically on paper is supposed to free up more testosterone. Have yet to see one person show me blood work before and after Proviron, showing me that they have a higher free testosterone. I don't think it works. I think it's just readily available, and so people use it because it's cheaper and readily available. It has no anabolic properties whatsoever. None. Zero. It's a pure androgen. It's a non-aromatizing androgen. It's a pure androgen. So theoretically, you can store glycogen better. You might get a little harder on it, but it's not going to do anything from building muscle. In that respect, I feel like it's a waste to take, because most people will take halotestin to accomplish that same thing prior to a contest. Halotestin is way more androgenic than Proviron, and you get a much better glycogen loading look, a much denser look from it. Once again, it has no anabolic properties either, but that at least is a little more effective as to raise androgen levels and to be able to store glycogen better. So to me, Proviron really has no place in the drug protocols of people. If you want to use it, knock yourself out. I just think it's a waste of money.
Let's go to Vinny. Anthony, how many weeks out do you like to start competition prep? And do you ever do a quick bulk in the beginning to add some size before really cutting?
Your bulk should be done in the off season prior to you having to get ready for a show. If you have to do a quick bulk, at 18 weeks out from your show, then you didn't prepare correctly in your off season. That's my belief about that. How long you need to diet for a show? I like to spend more time than less time, because I can do it slowly with the athletes I work with. So we do anywhere from 16 to 20 weeks of dieting. Usually 16 weeks is ideal. That should be enough. Now, if the person's very, very lean, I might not start them dieting until they're 12 weeks out. I might still be working with them, but I won't really start turning the screw. If they're really, I might wait till 10 weeks or 8 weeks. It really depends on how they look. If they're super fat and overweight, I may diet them for 24 weeks. So there's always exceptions to the rule, but for most of the people that I work with, 16 to 18 weeks is adequate.
Let's go to Neil Blass, IFBB Pro. Are you a fan of hack squats over bar squats?
I like hack squats, but I like hack squats more on a declined, type of situation. I don't like the real upright ones, and I don't like I like a little less than 45 degrees because it kind of takes the pressure off the knees. I feel it's not a replacement for squats, but I feel it's for me, it was hard for me to feel my quads contract during many movements. Obviously, I felt it on squats, but leg press never did it for me, except if it was a horizontal leg press. I felt that. But that regular 45-degree leg press never felt my quads at all. It was always glute, adductors, I felt stuff like that. So for me, the hack squat was really the way to really intensify the pressure on the quads. Because even when you're squatting, for me, a lot of it was glute, adductor, which is great because that makes the legs look a lot bigger. But to really target those front quads, hacks always felt the best to me, and I could really squeeze them and everything like that. And you don't have to go crazy heavy on it. You go heavy enough to challenge yourself, but you don't have to go nuts on the thing. And if you're using the right type of a hack squat, and I got to tell you, Bev's has got all different angle hack squats, and I found I don't even remember the one I was using, but there was a sweet spot one in there that was just perfect. Didn't bother my knees at all. Your knees shouldn't hurt when you're doing hack squats. If they are, your biomechanics are off.
Let's go to Haymakers Only, sticking with the leg training theme. Why would one experience excruciating cramps after an intense legs training session? This happens every time I go heavy or train my legs to failure. I believe I get enough electrolytes, but could it be a lack of calcium, magnesium, etc.?
I think when you break down a lot of muscle tissue, and I've noticed this as well, your body it's like you can't walk, your legs buckle on you. They're just, they're beat up. You're breaking down tissue. You're causing all kinds of havoc. Who knows, all the internal components of all those muscle cells are just leaking into the bloodstream. And it throws off electrolyte balances. It throws off everything, enzyme levels in these cells. And they don't work as well. Now, obviously, you're not doing that to every cell in your body, in your legs, what should I say. It's impossible to wreck every cell in the legs. So yeah, you still have muscle cells that are gonna work fine, but there's a lot of damaged tissue there if you're doing a really high intensity type of a workout. And the muscles of the legs are so big and they're so integral in walking. Think about it. You can do a hard chest workout, but you're not walking on your arms, so it doesn't really matter. You're walking on these legs. Try to walk a flight of stairs after doing some heavy squats. You just can't do it. And that has nothing to do probably with anything you can drink or any kind of supplement you could take. It's just you beat up your legs.
Let's go to Booby Bobby Traplord, our favorite Instagram handle. How often would you recommend a deload?
What? Say that again. What do they want me to know?
How often would you recommend a deload?
A deload?
Yeah. DELOAD.
Like to deload weights or deload carbs? I don't know what he's referring to.
He just left it at deload. So
I love all these new millennial terms that that I have to try to look up online in the Urban Dictionary. I'm assuming they mean deloading carbohydrates. I don't know. I don't know. I can't answer the question.
How about this, Booby Bobby Traplord? Elaborate on the question, and we'll get to it next week. Cool.
All right. Cool.
Let's go to Nikolai Sharp. Dave, what was the most amount of muscle mass you gained in 12 months? What numbers are average, and what are good in your opinion?
I had some years where I was gaining 15 pounds a year. I think at the 94 Junior USA, I weighed 228. At the 95, so 1 year later, 95 Junior Nationals, which was like a year and 2 months later, I weighed 258. So I gained 30 pounds of muscle. So that was my biggest gain. It was 30 pounds in about a year and 3 or 4 months. That was my biggest one. Then I gained another 10 pounds a year after that. From 92 to 94, I gained 20 pounds. So I did, so probably 30 pounds was my biggest year. I don't know how I did it. I don't know why that year I happened to grow the most, but I think that's when I started using IGF-1, to be honest with you, and insulin. But I think that was just a good year. I was healthy. I was able to train. You probably have a 3 to 5 year, run in your lifting career where you're going to gain the most muscle. It's called your peak years or your whatever you want to call it. Everyone has different names for it. And that's when you're going to put on most of your muscle. And if you could do it quickly and in the right places and without getting hurt, you're set, because then you can refine that muscle once it comes on. And that was what I did. I really, from about 22 years old to I'd say about 27, 28 years old, that was my growth years. And it probably averaged out to about 10 or 15 pounds a year. And I think that anyone who's just starting out should be able to put 15 pounds of muscle on a year. If you're on anabolics, let's qualify that. If you're not on anabolics, it's probably 5 to 10 pounds a year in your growth spurt years until you hit your natural potential. If you're on anabolics, you'll obviously go beyond that. I think a lot of people don't gain as much as they should. I see guys who gain 2-3 pounds from the year before. I'm like, why aren't you gaining more than that? And it's usually because they're not eating right, they're not training consistency, they have too much drama in their life, they're missing workouts, they have 1,000,001 excuses. And that's why it happens. I never had any excuses. I never missed a single workout. I never missed a single meal. Everything was methodical and like a machine. And I did that for 5 years straight. I gained 100 pounds of muscle in 5 years. So, that doesn't mean that everyone else can do the same thing, but you should be able to gain 10 to 15 pounds a year.
Dave, I'm going to direct your attention back to the deloading question. So deload, period of time, usually about a week when you're scaling back on volume and intensity training. So it is a training-related question when, I guess, scaling back for about a period of a week.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think it's okay to take a week or two off from the gym. I never did it because I was a nutcase. I should have taken more 2-week periods off. I nenever did. But yeah, I would after a show, I would take off. Let's say I did a show on a Saturday, so my last training day would be a Wednesday, so I didn't train Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Usually Monday I took off. Maybe Tuesday I went back to the gym, and what I would do is I would just train one body part, like a couple of exercises, so maybe 6 sets, and I would leave the gym, and I would do that for about a week or two. So I probably had, while I wasn't completely absent from the gym, I wasn't doing anything crazy for about 2 weeks after a show, and I would do that every year and try to just relax and ease back into the weight training. I don't think there's anything wrong with just taking off 2 weeks and not doing anything if you can mentally handle it. I couldn't mentally handle it. I was a psycho. I was afraid I was going to lose muscle, and I just enjoyed going to the gym at that point. So yeah, I think it's always a good idea to back off training for a certain period of time and then build up again. You always have to take a few steps backward to be able to take a leap forward going, down the road. If you're always trying to go forward, eventually you're going to get hurt, or something else is going to happen, and you're going to burn out. And that's just the way it is. You got to take a few steps back, rest and relax, and then gear up to go forward again.
Let's go to Andreas Lupus. Does swimming inhibit your muscle gains in the off season?
Swimming is a high intensity activity, just like running is, and I have to imagine if you're swimming on a regular basis, while it's good for your heart, you're certainly not going to build muscle and you're going to overtrain your body. So any kind of high intensity activity, running, cycling at a very high level, even some of these spin classes are really super intense. My wife has that Peloton, spin bike, and I see her going on there. Man, she looks like she can climb. She's climbing a mountain on that thing. So that's high intensity activity. You don't want to do that if you're weight training and trying to maximize muscle gains. It's gonna overtrain your body.
Let's go to Big_English. Someone asked this in two ways. His question is your best tips for losing lower stomach fat. I'm going to ask you what you did in your competition career to lose lower stomach fat.
Yeah, I never had any lower stomach fat. I still don't. No, I'm just kidding. No, I mean, everyone holds their fat in different places. I find that lower stomach fat, or people who have a lot there, it's usually due to high cortisol levels in the body. Cortisol levels, are catabolic hormones. They break down muscle, increase blood sugar, fat deposition in the abdomen and lower back fat. Why do we have that? Too many stimulants you're taking in, stress in your life, screwed up immune system, certain prescription drugs you have to take, like prednisone type based drugs will cause that as well. What I found a lot of times is not sleeping enough. Not sleeping enough raises cortisol through the roof. And that's going to cause more stubborn fat deposition in that lower stomach. Also, people who have been very overweight for long periods of time tend to have very resistant fat in that area as well. I have a few guys that I work with, and women, usually in the men. The women usually have it in their lower body, the men in their upper body. They just can't get rid of it. A lot of guys have gone for liposuction, but these are guys that were fat like for 25 years. They get rid of the fat every place else. They have that little jelly roll down there. But for most people who just seem to have stubborn lower body fat, and it's not something where they were obese or anything like that, a lot of times it's because they're not sleeping enough, they're taking too many stimulants, too many pre-workouts, and they're just not allowing their body to relax. You want cortisol levels low. You don't want high cortisol.
Let's go to someone_T. Can you get results using insulin without HGH?
Only if you're low in insulin. In other words, what does insulin do? It drives nutrients into the muscle cells, right? Into the cells of the body. If you're running high blood sugars, for whatever reason, you're eating a ton of food and your body can't keep up with the amount of insulin it needs, taking insulin is going to definitely help this situation. It's going to help you absorb the nutrients you're not absorbing. However, taking extra insulin, okay, and when your body produces enough of its own, is just going to make your body store more body fat. So, even in Milos's crazy insulin protocols where he has you take 20 IUs before your workout, 20 IUs in the middle of the workout, 20 IUs after your workout, he's having to feed that insulin. In other words, that insulin's not doing anything. He's making you eat to have to actually make sure that the insulin doesn't drop your blood sugar too low. So you're driving nutrients in, but if your glycogen stores are filled up and you're eating carbs, okay, and you're taking insulin, you're going to store them as fat. That's just the way it works. So most people don't need insulin. The reason why we take insulin when we take GH is because growth hormone makes you insulin resistant, which means it makes it hard for you to absorb all your food properly. And a lot of people who are on growth hormone are running high blood sugars. So taking insulin helps facilitate the movement of this food into the cells, whereas they weren't able to do that before because GH was inhibiting that. Likewise, if you're running high fasting blood sugars in the morning, okay, overnight, that has to do with a long-acting insulin issue. And a lot of times I have a lot of people now taking Lantus insulin, which is a long-acting insulin in the morning and at night, to help aid the body's natural insulin production to make sure that the body is absorbing all the sugar and all the food it can eat. Remember, insulin not only drives glucose into the cells, but also can drive amino acids into the cells as well. The bottom line is that your body just wants to absorb what's in the bloodstream. And if it can't produce enough insulin on its own, you could be cheating yourself. And you could be also jeopardizing your health because, as we know, high blood sugars lead to many different side effects.
Coincidentally, we actually had another question from Melon Fit. So I don't know if you want to address this, or if you want to get Milos on the show to talk about this. He talks about, I guess, a bad synthol experience back in the day with Milos. And if you could tell him what exactly happened that caused him to be rushed to the hospital, but that Milos has never really explained what happened. So I don't know if you have a background in the story, or if you want to get him on the show to talk about this aforementioned incident.
Yeah, Milos explained it. I don't know if it was actually accurate. He claims that he took a synthol shot and he somehow got the needle into the vein and injected the oil into his vein as opposed to the muscle. Now, if I gave you a 3cc 22 gauge needle and I told you, I want you to try to inject this into your vein, you probably couldn't do it, okay, because it's a very big needle. So the odds of Milos by accident doing that are like 1,000,000 to 1. Could it have happened? Possibly. I think he had some kind of other reaction to whatever he was injecting into himself. I don't even know what he was injecting, which product he was injecting at all. And he had some kind of, it could have been an allergic reaction or some kind of sometimes what happens is you inject something in your body, gets really nervous and it releases too much adrenaline and you can feel like you're gonna have a heart attack. I don't know. He has the story. I never really got all the facts straight. I don't know if he even knew really what the facts. I think a lot of it was conjecture. They were trying to figure out what could have caused this. I don't believe it was from injecting synthol into a vein, although that's what the story that he gave happens to imply. Like I said, it's it's hard enough with an insulin pen to try to get something into a vein. Ask a heroin addict. Mind you, a huge needle, just wouldn't go. When you inject a big needle into any kind of body part, whether, muscle-wise, what happens if there's veins and arteries that are kind of like in the middle there, the needle will kind of push them out of the way. You'd have to really be really lucky to get one into the actual vessel itself. Most of the time they just move out of the way and you might nick a little capillary and sometimes you get some bleeding or a little blood shooting back the other way. That's from a little nick of a capillary. Vessels don't get, you just don't get it in vessels. It's very, very difficult. If you knew anything about the gross anatomy of the body, of which, I'm pretty well versed because I went to medical school and, I dissected a cadaver and saw all that. It's almost impossible to do what Milos is claiming happened to him.
One last question is from Physique Academy. How effective do you find meditation and hypnosis in reaching a high level of competitive bodybuilding, and have you ever tried it?
Yeah, I wish I meditated more. I wish I had time really to meditate more. It took me a long time to learn how to do it. It's very hard I could do it pretty well now. If I just sit in a room for 10 minutes, I can meditate if I want to. But it's hard to quiet your mind and really, kind of black out everything that's going on. And that's really what you're doing. You're basically deep breathing while making your mind look like you're looking at a blackboard that's just blank. And in doing so, think about nothing. Don't try to do anything. Thoughts will come into your head, kind of push them away, almost like they're like you're floating down a river and there's obstacles in your way. Just kind of push them away, these thoughts, and just let your body do whatever it wants. And you might think about things that you didn't even think were capable, but it quiets your mind and allows you to be more of I guess you could say a better creator. The most creative people have to be able to clear their mind. You can't be frantic and running around chaotically all the time with doing 600 things at a time. And I know sometimes, I'm on my cell phone, literally, I'm answering WhatsApp, instant messenger on my Facebook, and checking Instagram. I got text messages coming in. I got emails coming in. I mean, it doesn't stop. I'm trying to post this and that, and you can't almost turn yourself off at night. And so I try to really put the phone down and not look at the phone before bed. When I drive, I don't listen to any music usually. That's my meditation. It's kind of like my silence. But that's really what meditation is. It's learning to quiet your mind and stop that franticness that's going on in your mind and just slow things down a little bit. And everyone does it in different ways. Some people do it in yoga classes. Some people listen to, YouTube has some meditation things you can put in your ear and listen to people walking you through meditation. Or you can, like I said, just sit in silence and just black out everything and just relax. You don't have to make meditation a difficult thing. Like I say, I don't conventionally meditate every day, but I think I do in a sense that at some point during the day, I quiet my mind and I think about nothing, and I just allow whatever happens. Because, you can go crazy, running around and worrying about, oh, how am I going to get this done? And how am I going to pay this bill? And I gotta worry about this, and I got a doctor's appointment, and you'll go crazy. You'll have a nervous breakdown. If you have to just take one thing at a time, understand that everything's going to work itself out the way it has to. Put in whatever work you have to put in, but don't sit around and be an anxious nutcase worrying about are things going to get done. If you do the work and you put the work in, it'll get done. Trust me. It's like when I was in school and I'd have like 4 term papers due at the same time. You want to cry almost because how am I going to get it done? How you get it done? You do one at a time. And that's how you get it done. You can't overwhelm yourself. Same thing with bodybuilding. You can only grow so fast. You can only eat so much food at one time. You can only take so many drugs. Taking triple the dose of drugs or training 16 times a week instead of the 5 times you're supposed to, or doing 800 hours of cardio and then overeating food, that's dysfunctional behavior and that's not going to help you succeed. So create a game plan, stick to it. I don't care how much anxiety you have about it or worry. It's not going to make you a better bodybuilder. So you might as well just not worry. You might as well not have anxiety because it's not going to change how you look or make you a better athlete. And that's been my philosophy on life. And as I got older, I've gotten wiser and been able to handle stress and anxiety better and compartmentalize it and understand that. And that's what meditation is about. It's about going deep into yourself and not worrying about what everyone else is doing.
Tyler, our producer, cut that clip. #trust the process. On that note, that's going to do for this episode of Ask Dave. Again, brought to you by Species Nutrition and Liquid Sunrays. Again, a reminder right now at rxmuscle.com and the RX Muscle YouTube channel, our exclusive interview with the legend himself, Robbie Robinson. For Tyler Shore and Dave Palumbo, I'm Sadiq Faruqi. We'll see you next time.